So 1 Million Cups was started by the Kauffman Foundation about 5 years ago. Since then, it's grown to several cities in the United States. So if you're ever away from Dallas, you can always check out the nearest 1 Million Cups chapter closest to wherever you are. So 1 Million Cups was started with the purpose of connecting entrepreneurs and getting them to engage with one another and be a part of a larger community. And we do this over, hopefully, 1 million cups of coffee. So there is an app. If you haven't been here before or if you haven't downloaded the app, please go ahead and start that download now so you can check in before the end of the show. So when you use the 1 Million Cups app, you can connect with other entrepreneurs in the community. You can also give the presenters feedback. So there is a question and answer portion of the show. If you don't get to ask your question or you think of something later on, you can always use the app to connect with people there. So when you check in, other people can see that you were here and you can see who else was here and what they do, and it might be another connection for you or some more networking opportunities. If you are going to use social media during the event, those are the hashtags that we use, 1MCNation and 1MCDallas. That'll help us find your tweets and your posts. So please use those if you are going to post during the event. So without further ado, we will go ahead and welcome our first presenter to the stage, Jeff. And here in Dallas, we stand up and we give a round of applause for our presenter.
Ladies and gentlemen, app-based transportation is blowing up. It's already 17 times larger than other forms of booking a ride and growing rapidly. But in all the buzz and excitement of it all, have you ever just stopped to think about how the technology actually works? When you request a ride, typically the algorithm will go and find the nearest driver to you so that you get the fastest response time possible. And that's nice, but is speed always your top priority? What if that second closest guy is the guy who took care of you last time, took the secret shortcut that saved you time and money, and the guy that's closest has a vehicle you'd rather not be seen in? Wouldn't it be much nicer just to be able to choose your driver? Or occasionally, maybe even give advance notice to a favorite driver to make sure that you nab them before someone else does? And what about when your phone is almost dead, or you're thirsty, or traveling with a small child? Wouldn't you like to be able to hone in on just the drivers that have a child seat, a bottle of water, or your type of phone charger? Of course, these are all very important things. But current technology can't do that for you because the drivers are hidden. They're anonymous. So an algorithm goes and chooses for you based on its priorities, not yours. My name is Jeff Bronchek with J&E Private Drivers. This is my partner Dak with Paradise Limo, and together we're on a mission to help you escape the algorithm. To do that, we're building a new platform called Blue Car, which gives all the control to the end user. Now, Dak and I are both licensed professional drivers, domain experts, and for that reason, along with others we'll get to later, we've decided to make Blue Car for professionals and luxury vehicles only. What that means is we're competing most closely against Uber Black and Lyft Lux, but we're not really pursuing the lower cost rideshare market. Okay? So, this is our MVP, our minimally viable product. Earlier I mentioned being able to give advance notice to a driver or being able to hone in on certain key selling points. We're going to build those in later, along with many other things that are really going to make the black car industry very appealing to the general public. But for now, this is where we're starting. At the top you have the menu, where you leave a credit card on file for seamless payments, create a customer profile. You can also choose how many people are in your group to make sure you get the right size vehicle, and of course set your location. These are very common things to other apps. Where you really start to see the distinction between Blue Car and other technology is when you hit search drivers. Because that button doesn't assign a driver to you. Instead, it shows you all the drivers available in your area from nearest to farthest. It shows you their name and picture, the company they work for, the vehicle they're driving, and their estimated response time. And it lets you choose who you want based on what's most important to you. When you're ready, just tap the driver you want, and everything after that is also very similar to current technology. So I don't need to get into that too deeply. Now the big question is, why are we doing this? Why are we building a new app? Why are we giving customers a choice of anything in an industry where no one else does? Are we just trying to increase the value, take some market share, make some money? Sort of, not really. What we're actually doing is we're trying to separate certain drivers out of a mixed market. What do I mean by that? Well, y'all have been told for years now that ride sharing is a gig economy. It's a side hustle, something people do in their spare time for spare cash. But the reality is that about 20% of the drivers on those platforms are full-time or professional drivers. And those numbers go up dramatically when we focus just on the luxury categories, where almost everybody drives as a career. So this isn't a gig economy at all. It's actually a mixed market with both gig and professionals operating together. And that's actually part of the problem. Because as you can imagine, someone like Joe, who has a day job outside of driving and just needs extra cash, has very different needs than someone like James, who has no income outside of driving and also has additional business expenses on top of that. So when James and Joe operate on the same platform, waiting in the same line for the rides being distributed by the same algorithm, James finds himself under a very low ceiling of opportunity. He's limited, and those limits are not based on his talent, his work ethic, or the value that he has in the consumer experience, or even their desire to come back to him. But when we give customers control of the system, or at least a choice of who they give their business to, all of that changes. Now the drivers who need more can get more by simply providing more value and growing a following of customers who are interested in coming back to their service. And so that means the opportunity now is not just for the app platform, it's for the individuals on the platform as well. So when we do that, what we're going to notice is that, let me say it this way. We use customer choice to create a better opportunity for drivers. Better opportunity attracts better drivers. And then those better drivers in turn are better at serving the needs of the customer. So it's a reciprocal relationship. So while our competitors are having trouble controlling the quality, our system should actually get better over time. And as a result of that, the size, the attractiveness of the black car industry should increase and lead to an increase in the market share that it takes. And ultimately, that is the goal behind what Blue Car is made for. That's it.
Thank you for your presentation. Okay, so the first question that we're going to open it up for question and answer. What can the community do for you?
Well, how many of you have ever used Uber Black or Lyft Lux? Yeah, okay. So if you're in that target demographic, we're actually in the beta testing phase right now. And we'd love to get some Dallas drivers and Dallas customers on board with beta testing as well, so we can get that feedback. Also, we're looking for, everyone probably says they're looking for cash, but we are looking for a reserve fund to make sure that we can make those improvements as we learn about them. So what I'd like for you guys to do, who raised your hands, just download the app from one of these cards, put it right next to Uber, and just open it up first. See if there's a driver nearby. If not, go with Uber or Lyft, whatever you're using, and just keep checking back in. We'll get more drivers on, the experience will get better, but we do need your feedback. And so when you do get that right, let us know how it went.
Anyone else have a question? Please raise your hand, and then I'll wait for the microphone, please.
Hi, good job.
Thank you.
So I just, I have two things. One, maybe don't focus so much on functionality in the first part of your presentation, because you talked the entire time about functionality and then you got to the actual app MVP and you were like, well, we're going to incorporate all that functionality later. And I get the mixed market message that you're saying at the end of the presentation, but the problem is you contradicted yourself in my mind, because you built up all of these benefits and market advantage and then told me I couldn't get that on the app. So I was a little confused. Second, there's another company that's not targeting professional drivers, but is targeting higher-end cars, requested functionality in specific drivers, that launched in Dallas recently that's gotten a lot of press. How do you feel like you differentiate from them?
Is that Alta?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're an entrepreneur-driven platform, and if I'm not mistaken, Alta is employees, correct? They pay their drivers by the hour. That does improve. That does improve some things over the Uber and Lyft model, which I think is not an attractive opportunity for drivers. So that takes them from a negative where it's bad for the driver in turn passes that to the end user by creating a bad experience, and takes that up to a neutral level. What we're building, and of course the MVP is just a drop in the bucket compared to where we're going, but what we're going to see in the future is creativity. We're going to see drivers start to imagine what would attract a customer and start to offer incredible services like the child seat and possibly free beer. Do you know that professional drivers are licensed for open containers? And we can do a lot of things others can't. So I think the entrepreneurial side of it, once they realize there's an opportunity for making a lot more money when they step up their game, will create an outstanding experience that just can't be matched. So it's kind of a long game, but we'll get there.
Question?
How are your splits? Are your splits more favorable than Uber and Lyft in terms of driver splits? Like, are you going to compensate them a higher percentage to attract more drivers?
We have a dual opportunity. So first of all, I believe the answer is yes. We do have more favorable splits because I think that Uber and Lyft, they take not only 25%, but they take a booking fee on top of that. Correct? Something like that. We're going to average about 15%, and the reason I say that is because the other 85% is actually split two ways. The driver who does the trip gets the majority of it, but there's a secondary part that's actually a revenue share that goes to the driver who brought the customer to the platform. So this is actually a secondary opportunity to create a residual income for drivers. These cards that you have in front of you, if you scan that link and download it, that's actually my personal referral code for J&E private drivers. So when you download the app and use it, now you're linked to my personal driving account, and I'm now building my retirement fund. I'm building a passive income just by simply growing the platform as an entrepreneur. So yeah, that can lead to a lot of residual income, which is favorable to the people who are early adopters, the drivers who are early adopters. But otherwise, it's about the same. 75% flat goes to the driver, regardless.
All right. Any other questions?
Two questions. First, where are you at price point wise versus, Black, luxury, Uber or Lyft?
Pretty much we're price matching right now. So identical to Uber Black and Lyft Lux.
All right. Second is more of a point, maybe a question at the end of it. I've taken Uber many times, group of people, just my wife and myself, and say we get Black SUV, get a great driver, he's actually professional. Also doing Uber, I get his car.
Yeah.
And I've got 2 or 3 drivers that live pretty close to me, and if I know I've got a trip coming up or a group of people going out, I'll just contact them directly and we'll bypass Uber. And what is your thought as to how that's going to change?
You can do that, and you should do that. When you have something scheduled, you should call the driver directly. That's why we're working with professionals. We don't care that we're missing that business, because occasionally you probably need a ride that can't be planned. You discovered you needed a ride at 2 a.m. and there's no time to schedule. That's really what Blue Car is for. It fills in the gaps. It's not meant to disrupt a driver's opportunity or their primary business. It just is meant to help extend it into a larger audience. So by all means, keep calling them. Eventually, we will also build scheduled service into the app. The margins will be much different on that scheduled side. Like instead of 15%, it'll be like 2%, possibly just a monthly subscription fee. Who knows? But when it comes to scheduling, yeah, that's the driver's primary opportunity. We don't want to infringe on that.
Any other questions?
What about cancellations? Like every once in a while, I would do Uber, and I also do Uber Black. Mainly on Uber Select and the other ones. I would get to the destination, maybe I'm 2 minutes away, and then it cancels.
Right.
What about that?
Our system of cancellation will be different, and I'd love to talk to you about this in more in depth, since you are a driver. This is one area where we really have leaned in favor of the driver. But our MVP, it's pretty similar to what you're experiencing now, where you'll get $10, $15 cancellation fee. But in the future, we're going to build in something that's like a variable cancellation and variable minimum. So based on how far you went before they canceled, that's how much you'll get. So if you drive 20 minutes to pick up, it might be a $30 or $40 cancellation. So that's more favorable for you. It allows you to take more of those chances on the long distance pickups. And it also allows people farther out to get more consistent responses per yes. So we'll get there though.
Any other questions?
How long have you been in the business now?
6 years. I started in Fort Worth about 6 months before Uber started. I was a bellman at the Omni Hotel. I branched off, built a real quick business pretty easily. Then, of course, there was the disruption, and that's when this opportunity came to light. So,
And this business that you have, how long has it existed?
I've been working on it for about 4 years. We're about a month old as far as being in the App Store, and so we're really just brand new. Still a lot of things to work out. Still a lot of customer feedback to get. So really, we're considered in the beta phase or the what do you call it? The proof of concept phase. So yeah, we'll need to work. We'll need to if you want to test it out, if you want to work it and use it to build your business, be happy to do that. I just need to show you what it all does and some of the things that we've found already that may need to work around until we approve them.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
You said that you needed money.
Uh-huh.
What kind of investment are you looking for, and what are you going to use it for?
The first chunk is to make those improvements as we learn about them. And we don't know how much that'll be. It'll be at least 15,000, probably up to 40. We'll try to knock that out in the next 3 or 4 months as we go through beta testing. After that, we're going to focus on driver acquisition outside of Dallas-Fort Worth, going to Houston, Austin. And then finally, last phase will be working on customer acquisition in Texas. So we have a lot of growth hacks put into this, so it's not going to be as expensive as a rideshare company would be. So really just $750,000 is it, and just 40,000 right away, as quick as possible.
So are you looking to give up equity in the company, or just take on them?
Yeah, equity is probably the best route, or at least a convertible note right now, until we figure out how we would afford a loan. I'm already invested. I put $150,000 in, including loans, so I'm pretty tapped out. Otherwise, I would just get a new loan to cover this. But current plan is bootstrap until we can get a yes on the investor side.
Time for a couple more questions. Anyone?
Hi, Jeff. Jeremy Ludwig. Thanks again for presenting this. Lots of questions with regards to competitive rivalry. If you think about Uber and Lyft, and they can always just spin off. I know you put like 5 or 6 different target demographics, and say they add one more, and there's Uber Black or whatever the case may be, and then they specifically target professional drivers. How are you going to compete with that? And also, if others like you come up with ideas very similar to you, and they're targeting specific drivers and specific customers, would your thought process be for your drivers, hey, I want you to commit to me, to my company, or would you allow them, would there be an exclusivity clause? I'm just curious, like from a competitive standpoint, how are you going to compete moving forward?
That's a really tough question. That would be more of a legal question to see if we can get a commitment without locking ourselves into a certain relationship that we don't want. I think that the future of this niche is going to be a competitive market based on earning the driver's business, and it's going to be an opportunity-based competition where the one who presents the best opportunity is the one who wins the driver's business and loyalty. So that's our goal, is just to create the most outstanding opportunity possible to make sure they stick with us and that everything is more attractive on our end. These are some of our competitive advantages over other models, and the last one, flexible model, is really a big one because it allows you as a consumer, once we get to that 3rd and 4th iteration of Blue Card with the filtering, it will allow you to basically make whatever kind of service you want to. So if you need a female-only driver base, you can filter down by gender. If you need Cadillac Escalades only, you can filter down to just the Cadillacs, and so on. So it's a very flexible system where you can kind of create your own service, or it will be in the future.
All right, we have time for one more question. Anyone else? Well, last question I'll ask. You said you price match with your competitors. Are you gonna guard against like them trying to price you out or something like that? Or?
To undercut the price?
Yeah.
With a higher value proposition. I've thought about this a lot, and if they're just giving you a random person, and we're giving you whoever you choose, and that person is actually stepping up their game to provide a higher value with extra amenities and everything, hopefully we'll get enough traction before that happens that the people will be able to justify staying with the price they've always paid, as opposed to going lower. Plus, I think if they drop the price too low on Uber Black, they'll alienate some of the drivers as well, and that will just further help us separate that market.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Sure.
Thanks again to Jeff with Blue Car. So this is the halftime portion of the show. If you need more coffee, you can go ahead and grab that now. We would also like to thank our sponsors at this time. Thank you to Michael K. Bruner, who's running around here somewhere snapping pictures. There he is in the back. Michael provides all the photography and video for 1 Million Cups. You can see the presentations on our YouTube channel or from the 1 Million Cups app. You can see today's presentation as well as presentations from the past. So take a look at that if this is your first time and you want to know more about 1 Million Cups. I'd also like to thank our venue sponsors, The Deck and Capital Factory and The Deck. Capital Factory is a resource for startups, for the best startups in Texas. They introduce you to investors, mentors, co-founders, lots of resources that you need for your business. The Deck is a nonprofit organization that's a resource at every stage for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. So if you're an entrepreneur, definitely holler at somebody from The Deck. The lady is here if you want to know more information about The Deck. And thank you for our coffee sponsor, Clyde with it's Clyde's Cold Brew. Clyde's Cold Brew is right over there, so if you want to try some responsibly sourced coffee, go ahead and grab a cup before we get on to our next presentation. So on the 1 Million Cups app, I noticed that we had a couple of people check in. We have our regulars, Ty and Jeff, and myself. So if you haven't checked in yet, go ahead and check in so we can see who is here and you can connect with other entrepreneurs and leave your feedback as well for the presenters. So we will now welcome to the stage our next presentation. There we go. All right. We will welcome Ken with the tire tag. We'll stand up and give Ken a round of applause.
Kind of loud anyway, so. Thank you guys, and thank you for having Million Cups in Dallas, Texas. This is my 82nd Million Cups presentation. Not with the product you're about to see, but 3.5 years ago, I went to my first Million Cups at a little town called Springfield, Missouri, which is one of the original Million Cups. Wichita, Kansas, I think was second, Kansas City was first, I think Springfield was third. They're celebrating their 5th year today in Springfield. But I was sitting in the audience just like you guys, and I was a real estate broker for 37 years, and I was beginning to get bored with my industry, and I decided it would be kind of fun to reach out and see what else is out there in my community. And someone by the name of Tim O'Reilly that owns O'Reilly Automotive said, you should go check out Million Cups. So I'm sitting there like you guys watching 2 presenters, and I thought, I'm an entrepreneur. I should go out and try to create something. So we went out literally in the next few weeks, found me an engineer, and invented the world's first fully collapsible portable mini billboard called Gorilla Signs. If in the room's ever heard of Gorilla Signs, but we took that around a lot of the Million Cups and presented it. It's been a very successful product. Then I realized that as I looked around the room, that it was a room full of 5%ers, but I call 5%ers. See, I think that each and every one of you are early adopters, risk takers, business owners, founders, and that's unique to Million Cups. There's 185 of them right now in the United States, meeting right now, which is pretty staggering. That's a large group of people that are all in that same mindset as you guys. So we set out then to start figuring out how to raise up that group of people and figure out how to empower them to become the 5%er that they were born to be. And so we started a company called Focus on the 5. That's really what our company is. This is a product of that. It's called the Tire Tag. The Tire Tag came to us from a group in Atlanta, Georgia, that said, just a guy in the group walked up and said, you know, I'm in the security industry. There's a real issue and a problem in the security industry. And I said, what's that? He said, well, the number one revenue stream in the security industry today is parking violations. Most municipalities fund themselves off of the parking tickets. He said, but here's the problem. 95% of the parking spaces in the United States, no one is monitoring. You can park in a handicapped spot, and short of having them tow your car away, there's nothing they can really do to you. And I said, well, that's a problem. It caught my attention, so I sat down with a pen and paper, and I said, so tell me all the problems that there is in the parking industry. And he said, well, one of the problems is, he said, is you can't ticket. The other is, he said, towing somebody's car off is pretty extreme. He says, so a lot of lot owners don't want to do it because it ticks off their customer. And I said, well, in the old days, we just stuck a ticket on the windshield and they paid the ticket. And he said, well, now they throw it away because they know there's no way you can enforce it. And I said, so basically, if we could figure out a way to kind of slap their hand, make them pay the ticket, we'd have something. He said, we'd have a multi-billion-dollar company. So we set out to do that. Went back to people like you and said, how do we solve this problem? So what you're about to see is how we solve the problem. It's kind of fun. So these are the different kinds of parking violations that there are. And there's the one for handicap. In the state of Texas, you can charge $500 for somebody parking in a spot that they shouldn't be in a handicap spot. That's a pretty good revenue stream. Guess who gets that money? Whoever enforces it. The problem we saw with that was we felt like we should give back to the community. So in our process, we formed where we give a percentage back to the men in blue in the community. So when an officer gets shot in the state of Texas, there's really no money to help the family out from the officer who's been wounded or killed. So this fund basically helps that family. So that was a way to get back to the community. The tire tag system basically is really simple. There is a device. Looks like this device right here. It simply gets put on the wheel of your vehicle when you're in a traffic violation situation or in a parking situation that you should be, like a handicap spot or fire zone, or maybe you're parked in 3 parking spots and you shouldn't be turned diagonally because you drive a Porsche, decided your car is special. Well, you have the right to ticket that person on a private lot in the state of Texas or anywhere in the United States. So, and it should be, because everybody else goes by the rules. So the way that we look at it is that it's against the law, and it should be ticketed for it. So this device is really simple. The security guard has a cell phone, he goes to an app, he goes to that app and he puts in the lot number, he puts in the device number, scans the device, he puts your license plate number in, takes a picture of your car real quick in the violation. All that goes into a CRM system which we've been building for the last 6 months. And then basically, we have all your information. The security guard gets out, he walks up to the wheel of your vehicle, and he sticks this on the wheel of your vehicle. Consumer comes out, they call the 800 number, they then pay with their credit card, and they take the device off with a 4-digit code, and they drop it in a drop box on their way out of the lot. What we've accomplished is there's no confrontation now. No confrontation for security companies, no confrontation for returning the device. So it speeds the process up and makes it easy for the consumer to pay it. It's also not very intimidating when you walk out to your car and you don't have some great big huge device in your car that's kind of embarrassing. This device is small enough to where probably nobody would even know you got ticketed. There it is applied to a vehicle. See, it's on the wheel, not the tire. So one of the other problems with all the other devices that are on the market, that everybody remember had a boot on their car, or ever seen a boot? Well, the boots are what's the more popular device up till now. The problem with the boot is we had a lady in Chicago that walked out to her car, and she basically had a miscarriage in the parking lot and sued for $1.8 million and won. So the boot's a little bit of a problem. So the revenue stream that's the revenue stream. 40% goes to the client, 40% goes to the company, 10% goes back to cost. It's quite a revenue stream. basically what we're here today to do is look for independent contractors and people that would have an interest in being in the revenue stream to implement this system. We have a lot of questions, certainly would love to answer them, but that's the presentation.
Thank you for the presentation. First question, obviously, is how can the community help you?
Well, we love feedback. That's how we built the company, and so we love to look for new ideas as focus on the 5. And so anybody that needs help with getting an idea started, we'd love to talk to you. The second thing is that this particular device needs independent contractors in the Dallas area and across the United States. So we empower an independent contractor to be able to be the head of the system, to introduce it to security companies and to management companies. And it's quite a revenue stream, very good money potential. So.
Questions from the audience?
Pass this around so you can.
Yes. How exactly does this device? I read online before I came here that it doesn't immobilize the car. What's going to prevent parking violation? Someone who's violated parking rules to just take this home and cut it off.
It's a great question. You know, the idea behind the device was simply to basically smack your hand and say, shouldn't have parked there. It's the step somewhere between the boot and between a ticket on the windshield. We believe that less than 1% of 1% will actually go to the trouble of going home and trying to get it off their car. I mean, most will just take the time to pay the ticket and go on. Because first of all, we don't recommend you drive with it on your car. You can, in an emergency, we don't recommend it. Your car will wobble, it will make your car feel like you're out of balance, but you can get to another place if you need to. It doesn't necessarily do damage to your car unless you drive extensively with it. If you did cut it off, our system still knows that your license plate violated. So the next time that we go to put a device on your car, it doesn't matter whether you're from New York, Florida, doesn't matter what state you're from, our system is universal. It's the first universal system. So basically, we know that your license plate has violated once before. We have a beefed up chain that we put on your car because you're a repeat offender. You'll play heck getting that one off. This one here is hard to get off. This one we take a diamond cut saw because it's what's called kryptonite steel. So it's not just your average chain.
Hi, I'm the 1%.
Hi.
My question is, how much do these devices cost you as the owner of them?
So we tried to create our own. We found out it was cheaper to go to the #1 lock company in the country, in the world, which happens to be Abbas Locks out of Germany. We looked at the local ones in the States, but they did not make a lock that was as good a lock as the one in Germany. They have 22 manufacturing facilities around the world. And the cost of this lock for us is about $58 a piece. So we charge a $60 deposit when the person actually does the violation. When they return it to the drop box, 24 hours later, they get the deposit back. If they don't return it, it's a wash for us. So, I guess the elite might throw it in the trash can and just pay the $60, but it's simply drop it in the box on the way out of the parking lot and they get their $60 back.
I have a question. Hi, I'm Jessica. Good job. So my question is, you mentioned someone could drive away with it, and it would just make their car feel a little off balance. Are you a little concerned because from like the boot standpoint, part of the value of that from the company's perspective is you can't drive your car away, which means they're not going to be liable if you get on the road and you get in an accident with it on your car and it's somehow related. You obviously don't have that kind of liability protection because you can drive away with it. Are you concerned about that?
It certainly was the problem. Liability is a two-way street. Obviously the lady that had the miscarriage in the parking lot in Chicago and sued for $1.8 million because she couldn't get the boot off her car fast enough.
Yeah.
That was a liability.
Yeah.
And so the largest security company in the United States, we just launched this literally 2 weeks ago, decided to start opening it to the public. And this is actually the second million cuts that's actually heard in San Antonio was the first.
Oh, there you are. I have a question for you.
Yes.
I think your presentation is great. Just curious, what about people that are innocent? Because you're automatically making them guilty. Is there a way for them to not pay it or try to fight it?
Sure, great question. So the question is, what happens if somebody gets the application and they shouldn't have got it? Well, they simply call the 800 number that's on the tag, explain that, and they'll ask you to send a picture of your car with the tag on it. When you send the picture, which takes seconds, you take a picture, upload it to them. When you do that, we'll know if the car that you sent a picture of was in violation or not, because remember, we took a picture of it in violation with a handicap sign in the background or the curb that says fire zone.
I understand that, but what if you are,
So then at that point,
if cases where people are handicapped and someone took a picture and didn't see their handicap sticker.
Sure.
And they're stuck.
Right.
You
So
know,
at that point,
my deal is, how do you fight it, and can you?
you don't fight it. We just give you the code and let you go ahead and take it off. No fine.
So you said that somebody would
You
call.
got to know the idea of this is not to disrupt or create a problem within the parking violation system. It's actually to enforce. And it would be the same principle that you would do. It's just that we can quickly, we did test this in 15 markets, and we had 0 of that situation happen. But it could happen, sure it could happen. Somebody legitimately doesn't have their handicap sticker in the window, but they are handicapped, even though their license plate doesn't say it. But here's the thing, that is a violation. Technically, that is a violation. But if they could convince us that they could send us the handicap deal or whatever by picture, we'd give them the code and let them in. So, we're really not looking to be a jerk about it because there's really no need to. The truth of the matter is the revenue stream from it's stupid. There's so much money that comes in from it that we're not really after. We're really more after the repeat offender or somebody who really becomes a real problem.
So you said
It's a good question, though.
So you said that they would call in. Are you hosting a call center? Or is this what your company's going to be doing now?
No, actually, we outsource everything. Everything. There's nothing that we don't have one employee, and we basically outsource the locks. We outsource our call system. Our CRM system was created by somebody as an outsource. So everything we do is outsourced. We believe that's the future for entrepreneurs. Yes, sir.
All right, so 2 questions here. If I want to be a contractor for you over in Fort Worth, let's say, do I have to have any special licensing permit, or can I just be anyone? And second, if I know someone, is there a bonus for referring them?
So we do that. We actually go through and figure out who you are and what you are, do a little background check on you, obviously, because you're basically in the security industry. And by the way, that was just a little deal that we do to get everybody to go outside so we can show how the impact of the security industry is. No, but the answer is, it's really no cost to use an independent contractor today. It's probably going to be roughly $30,000 a year from now, and there's a reason for that. We'll just basically, won't go into that, but today it's no cost. Basically, we choose you. You come to us and say, yes, we're interested. We have packets over here that you actually come up and get, and we get your name and number, and we come back and meet with you. There's only going to be maybe 3 or 4 in all of Dallas, maybe 2 in Fort Worth. That's all we need. Because what that independent contractor does, they don't apply the device. They go and find parking companies, and they go find security companies that wants to apply the device, and then they get 7% of the revenues from that point on, every time a tag goes on. So it's about $43,000 for an average lot income for an independent contractor. You do 100 of those lots, it's $4.3 million a year. It's a stupid amount of money. It's what I tell you what it really is. It's a utility. But the problem is that no one's enforcing it. So to be that person who organizes and does it certainly merits the potential to make a lot of money. So it's a great opportunity for somebody in business. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
2 questions. The first one is, where are you now? I mean, are you still in beta?
No, we're launched. We're ready today to set you up in business. Literally this afternoon, we can have a parking lot up and going in Dallas. There's not any in Dallas yet. We're in the process of setting up in Austin, LA, Albuquerque, Atlanta, and Springfield, Missouri. But we just launched, so we did beta test, and we did run some lots and make sure through a security company, the largest security company in the United States, a company called, a franchise security company called Signal 88. We just left their convention in Atlanta, drove straight here. They just endorsed our product, and we're the only product they've endorsed in the tire industry that they actually embraced, and they recommended to their 250 franchisees. And they were one of them that beta tested the product for us. And it's a revenue stream for them to pay for their employees. Most of their employees in the security company industry is a veteran of some form. And so for us, it was about rewarding the veteran, being able to pay a higher pay to the veteran, and be able to create. The security industry is growing rapidly for obvious reasons. And so this is just a piece of that industry. But it empowers the security companies to be able to pay their people more. So we think it's a kind of a win-win for the community all the way around. Because here's the reality. On the average lot, there's 30, 40 people that pass by a handicapped spot just walking into HEB as an example. HEB is a prime example. HEB has parking spaces for expecting mothers or people with kids. They have the right to enforce that parking space. And they have the right to ticket you if you park there and you shouldn't have. Guess what? HEB is one of their largest donating charities is to Men in Blue. So anybody know HEB? There's a lot of money laying there on the table to go introduce us to HEB.
And one more question. Just to clarify, this is only for private owners and not like cities or counties, correct?
That's incorrect. City of Round Rock is in the process of getting ready to start using the system. This is the world's first universal system, so here's the value of this. And anybody in the room remember the Round Rock bomber that was mailing bombs? Well, he parked at a UPS store 6 times. The guy next door had a hair salon. He called in 6 times the landlord as the guy parked in the fire zone shouldn't be. But there was nobody that captured the fact that he was a violator. 3, get this statistic, 3 out of 4 repeat offenders, parking violation offenders, end up being a felon at some point in their life. So the quickest way to catch them is to actually record the violations on a broader scale. So we've been told the FBI is going to be real interested in the system. Somebody asked earlier about licensing and being able to get a license to be able to do it. Really, in the state of Texas, you have the right to enforce your parking lot. You're in business, and when you're in business, you have to have a license to be in business. But beyond that, there's really no other licensing. You have the right to enforce your private lot, so you can contract with the person on a private lot. Municipalities falls in a little different category. You do have to be a licensed security industry and all that, but they already have their own enforcement. So we just basically, so really what we are is the solution for enforcing violations. We're not the security company.
Along those same lines, so you just mentioned legalities related to parking enforcement. So what happens, because I know towing companies have a big issue with this. In the state of Texas, you're required to put certain notices in your parking lot for that tow or that enforcement to be valid.
Right.
And the towing companies end up playing middleman on a lot of that. So are you going to be sending your independent contractors out to make sure that the lots you're working with have the proper notifications so that you're not having to do that?
It's a great question. Yes, there's a kit that comes with, there's the drop box itself, which is clearly marked as a violation. There's a window sticker that goes on your window that says that you have violated. But and to your question is, do I know I'm going to get a ticket on my car if I violate? Well, federal law says if you park in a handicap spot, that's universal. Park in a fire zone, it's universal. But what will be the fine if I do needs to be posted. So we have signs that we actually put on that lot that are very clearly marked that says, yes, you will be fined and tagged if you are violated.
All right, we have time for one more question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm a limo driver. Carlos is a limo driver. Just recently at DFW, they changed the rules. Immediate loading and unloading only. But they made specific spots inside the 1 hour parking. And 9 times out of 10, maybe 8 times out of 10, there's a pedestrian parked there. But they don't enforce it. What about that?
We believe that universities, medical, airports, this empowers them now to be able to enforce, because here's the reality. If you own a parking lot and you're not enforcing, you're liable. If you're not enforcing the law, so this little old lady as an example shows up and she's got a cane and it's icy outside in Dallas, and there's all the parking spaces are full because everybody's thinking, well, it's icy, it's going to run in real quick. but she can't park in the handicap, so she parks 20 spots out. This has actually happened in Dallas. She fell and broke down and broke her hip. Guess who she sued? The landlord, because the landlord was not enforcing his parking situation. And the landlord said, well, I couldn't get it towed because these people are only here for 15 minutes. The tow truck won't even show up in time. But with our system, you can put the tag on immediately. And it doesn't stop the towing. Towing can still happen. So if your policy is to tow, but here's the problem. The people who own the parking lot get no funds for that, for having security. They can't pay for their security. This is a way to pay for security so you can actually enforce those situations and actually go and say, okay, this is a violator, let's do something about it. So it creates jobs and it enforces the parking violations that are happening on private lots as well as municipalities and cities and so on and so forth. It's just it's basically a way to enforce putting a ticket on the windshield.
All right, thank you, Ken. That's all the time we have for Q&A.
Oh yeah. So, who's first time here today? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, thanks so much. Thanks for hanging in there with us during the fire drill. Before we leave, I want to, we don't have much time, so I won't invite Oren to the stage, but if you'd like a tour of the space, holler at Oren. He will be giving a tour in about 15 minutes, so get with him. If you want to stay and co-work, you are free to pull up a chair anywhere on the bottom floor except for the conference rooms. Just sign in with Jessica at the front desk. And we'd also like to tell Jessica happy birthday. Today is her birthday.
Happy birthday!
All